Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast, The Road to Restoration. I'm Pastor Sergio, and wow, what a privilege it is to have you with us today. The podcast is all about helping people, whether they are on the road, they have fallen off the road, or have been weary of being on the road, to realize the importance of the road. Jesus said that there are two roads. There's the broad road that leads to destruction and the narrow road that leads to life. And today, this podcast is about speaking life into your process as God restores you, because I believe we're all in a process. And today, I have the great privilege to be with a great friend, Pastor Ben Prescott, who leads Free Chapel, Orange County. Pastor Ben, it's great to have you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Love you. Thanks for having me.
I love the fact that you're willing to talk about the road to restoration. What does that mean to you when you think about the title, The Road to Restoration? What does that mean to you?
To be honest, it's a combination of things. Because for me, the restoration journey is still fresh. So I'd be lying if I said, when someone says the road to restoration feels like, wow, this is amazing, because it's the reality and truth of it is the road to restoration hurts like hell sometimes.
Yep.
But it leads to heaven in the end. So,
what is God restoring you from? Because most people who may not know you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, without sort of giving you all the gory details, but, I'm now just gone through in the final stages of a divorce, and I've got two kids. I've got a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and pastor in a church. And I'm originally from Australia. So I'm out here
that's where we met.
Yeah.
Originally.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I'm out here in California. The rest of my family's back home in Australia. So it's been a challenging, at times very lonely, difficult journey. But I do feel that I'm on the up. I do feel that I'm on the other side of what's been pretty traumatic and devastating, and I do feel hope.
And there's hope for everyone.
What you said at the start is it's so simple. We've heard it so many times, but you said there's two roads. One is a wide road that leads to destruction, and one is a narrow road that leads to life. And it's so simple. It's so simple, but it's so true, and it's so helpful. The road that you're on, when you're on the right road that it is narrow, feels difficult, it's reminding yourself that this destination is going to be life. Where I'm going, the road I'm on right now is going to head to life. It's going to head toward hope. The end is good. There are great things ahead of me. And just reminding yourself right now, wherever you're in, whatever journey you're on, if you're on that right road, it does lead to life. And sometimes just reminding yourself of those simple things. You've got to be like a horse with the blinkers on, remind yourself, I'm headed towards life. Feels like death right now, but I'm headed towards life. That's where I'm going.
That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing, and I know people appreciate that. I want to refer to a verse in the Bible, Matthew chapter 14. I want to talk about storms, because you did a message a while back ago called Storm, Stay If You Want To. And I'm reading from Matthew chapter 14. The Bible says that when Jesus saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost." And Jesus spoke to them and said, "Don't be afraid, as I take courage." And Peter said, "Lord, if it is really you, tell me to come." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water towards Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind, or the storm, and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. And Jesus reached out and immediately grabbed him and saved him. Why did you preach that message called Storm, Stay If You Want?
Well, I was in a series on storms, and I'd read that verse. I was so familiar with that story, and I was going over it and over it, just meditating on the story, and whenever I look at it, through in the Bible, I try to put myself in in the story. So I'm thinking of, Peter and what he's going through and the challenges that they're experiencing on the boat. They look out, they see Jesus, and they're scared. They think it's a ghost. So now they're scared of where they are, but now they're also scared of the solution, because the solution feels like it's Jesus, and this is scary. And then it just all of a sudden hit me that Peter never asked Jesus to calm the storm. Peter asked Jesus, "Is it really you? And if it's you, tell me to step out on top of the storm." It suddenly hit me that what Peter was essentially really saying without saying was, Peter was saying to the storm, "Storm, you stay if you want to stay. You do what you're going to do, because it's not always my job to calm storms. Sometimes God's calling me to step out in the middle of it." And that's what Peter did. It was an incredibly bold, faith-filled, to have the audacity to step out of a boat in the middle of a storm and do what you're being called to do by God, even though the storm hasn't settled. That to me that there's a faith in that. That's the title for me was, that's where it came from. Storm, stay if you want. Because I'm not gonna, it was a statement I was preaching.
You were preaching to your situation.
Yeah, I always do. I'm preaching when I'm walking through, and for me it was a declaration it was a statement to the enemy. It was a statement to hell. You do what you're gonna do, and I'll do what I'm gonna do, and let's see who comes out on top. Because I know that he that's in me is greater than whatever's in this storm. So the ultimate victory is it's Mount Carmel. You bring your best, and I'll bring mine. You show up and I'll show up, and let's see who's left standing. And that's what it was for me. It was storm, stay if you want. I'm going to walk on this.
So there's someone listening right now that is in a storm, and they don't want to stay in the storm. They want to speak to the storm, like we've told everyone all our lives, right?
Yeah.
Speak to your storm.
Yeah.
They don't even have a voice to speak right now.
Yeah.
And they're in a storm. What would you say to them about why they should stay in the storm?
It's understanding that the greatest testament of God's goodness, I think, is not found in the storms that God settles. It's found in the storms that he stands next to us while we're in the middle of it.
So the greatest storms are not the storms that he settles for you.
The greatest testament to his goodness. The
greatest testament to his greatness, to his grace.
Because if I have to wait for the storm to settle, then it's not as strong of a statement of faith for me if I have to wait for it to settle before I sense God with me. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't wait for the fire to die down before they sensed an angel. God showed up in the middle of the fire. That's the greatest declaration of God's victory over our challenge and over our storm, is when the storm's given it everything he's got, and you're still standing. It's like getting in a ring with a fighter that gives you his biggest knockout blow, and you take it on the chin. That's where it's real, and I think for people that are in the storm, not every storm that we face is been sent by the enemy to break us. Some storms we face have been allowed by God to build us. And if you're in a storm right now, it's the strength to surviving your storm, the strength to not allowing that storm to steal your purpose, to rob your peace, is to tap into God's presence, God's power, and God's peace while you are right in the middle of it.
And how would someone do that? How did you do it? How did you find God's presence, God's power, and God's peace in the middle of your storm?
I had to break it down to quite simply one step at a time, and I know that's cliched, but for me that's what it was. The steps of a righteous man or woman, they're ordered by the Lord. The steps, and whatever that step is. There were times for me, one step meant a day. There were times for me where one step literally meant a morning, where I had to say. There were times where I didn't know if I was going to be able to get up out of bed, and it was one step. It was one verse. If all you can do, if the only strength you can muster is to, in the morning, to get your phone, open the Bible app, and just read the verse of the day. If that's all you've got, God will take it. God will take it, and God will say, okay. Because when you do a little, He'll do a lot. When I'm weak, He's strong. So why am I focusing on trying to be strong? He doesn't need me to try and be strong. He needs me in my weakness to be obedient and just go one step at a time. And pick up your phone, look at that verse of the day. If that's all you can do, just read it and say, God, I'm taking this by faith. Help me to get to noon.
Wow. Pastor Ben, thank you. And on our next episode, I want to talk about the power of one day at a time.
Yeah.
Because I think that the practicality of that and the power of that
Yeah.
allows anyone that's listening, I can do this.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the podcast, The Road to Restoration. I'm with Pastor Ben. Pastor Ben, thanks for joining me. And on our next episode, you want to stay tuned, because not only are you going to learn what the steps could be for you, but you'll discover the power, peace, and the presence of God in those steps. That was powerful. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Share it with a friend. And until next time, God bless you.